What about now? Atlanta, we've got a problem. Don't tell me that. What about now? Can you hear me? Woo, woo. Okay, you can hear me now. All right. I feel like that T-Mobile commercial, right, from back in the day. Can you hear me now? Sorry. Okay, so we're good. We're good. All right, perfect. So I was going to talk to everybody about the spring market, what we're seeing going on as far as housing here, because our spring market has sprung. I was just talking about when you couldn't hear me that the weather here has totally made a turn for the better. We're finally starting to see some sunshine and going on. However, the pollen here has also sprung and it's killing my sinuses. So if you can see like some eye swelling, redness, face blowing up, it's all the great things about Georgia, but it comes, with benefits like the sunshine is popping around. So I'm happy about those things, but I'm also happy to have you guys here tuning in. So make sure that you drop any questions or thoughts that you have in the chat. I want to make sure that I'm hitting everybody's thoughts and questions. But I saw this article that was written by Atlanta Agent Magazine, and they were talking about the existing home sales. We've had the biggest gain in home sales since this time last year and even a little bit before that. February was a huge month for sales here in Georgia. So that's exciting because usually in the Georgia market, we start to see homes popping off around March, April timeframe, and by May, June, we're in full effect for the summer market. So it's exciting to see that those things are actually starting to take place. We're starting to see home sales going on. So I'm excited about all of this. So let me share this with you guys so you can see what I am seeing. So you can kind of take a look, 4.38 million homes. So that's month over month. We're up 9.5%. Year over year, we're up 3.3%. So that's a good median, year over year trend. We're wanting to see that 3.3. Anything over like 6%, and we're going back to what we were in 2020, 2021, and we're not trying to go that route again. I don't know about you guys. The median sales price is hovering around $384,000. So that's up about 5.7% from last year. And so one of the things I want to point out to you guys, because I know a lot of you have been talking about interest rates, obviously it's a big hot topic, is if you had bought a home early last year, let's say, January, February, by this point, you've already made 5.7% on your home. So you have to think about the fact that even though you're having those higher interest rates, you are making money because of the equity in your home. So that's a great benefit. And then inventory, we're still pretty low. We're at 2.9 months. So basically coming up on 3 months. Last year, we were at 2.6 months. So we are getting a little bit more inventory, which is exciting because that's what we need to really turn this thing around. But it says existing home sales jumped in February, posting their largest monthly increase since February of 2023. Specifically, sales rose 9.5% from January to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 4.38 million. So what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? Because they always use that language. It basically means that year over year, we saw home sales close at about 4.53 million. That was in total sales for the year, which is a really good number. The year before that, we had trended down just a little bit. Year before that, we were far over that. So this is a good round number. Usually somewhere around the 4 to 5 million is when we're going to be really seeing a little bit of a balanced market. When we start getting things, much higher than that is when we were seeing like the 2020s and 2021s where things were just kind of chaotic. But what does that look like in our specific market? Whoops, let's control this. Here we go. So homes for sale, we're starting to see them tick up again, right? Which is a positive because we need to see those things. New listings to hit the market. We have trended up again. In December, we were at a low of 5,700. January, we came to 9,300. And then February, we're crossing the 10,000. So that's fantastic. March numbers have not come out yet, but when I was pulling them roughly the other day, we had gone even higher. So the more inventory that we're able to see, the more opportunities that are going to be for home buyers to get out, not have as much competition. So that way you're not having multiple offers as much when you're having so much competition, because we're still in a seller's market. And so it's tough. It's tough for buyers because with interest rates still being, on the higher side, and then not having as many home options, that's where it's tough. That's where it comes in. But with the home options, we've still been seeing a lot of new construction popping off, which is fantastic because it gives a lot more options. Where I would really like to see things turn around is in the resale market, but we just haven't been able to see that yet. I feel like a lot of people are still wanting to really stick and stay in their homes because of those interest rates. I know I talked last week about if we could just take our interest rate, put it in our pocket, and take it to our next home. We might actually see some people wanting to list their homes. I feel like a lot of people just don't see the value of listing their home when they're going to lose this 3 or 4% interest rate and then turn around and have to get in at 6.5%. That's a 3% difference, and that's a huge, huge savings for them. So if we could just take it with us. So I was talking with my lender, Tyler, about this, just seeing, what are the options as far as that goes. And unfortunately, it's kind of like Verizon. If you're a new customer, you can get that deal. If you're someone going to assume that loan, you can take that loan, but the loan is tied to the house and you're not able to take that interest rate with you. So if any lender can figure out how to make that happen, please hit me up. Let's figure this out and start getting some homes sold. But the good news is that there is a ton of new construction options. I was going to show you guys this map here. Let's just pop on over. So you can kind of see right here in the greater Atlanta, we call this the metro Atlanta area. This is where we're seeing a ton of new construction. There's also a little bit over here in Savannah and then coming down into Brunswick. And this is like the St. Mary's area. And let me tell you guys something. Do not sleep on Georgia's coast, okay? Because Georgia is not necessarily known for its coastline, but it should be because it's absolutely gorgeous. I personally love St. Simon's area, Sea Island, those areas. Cumberland Island is one of my ultimate favorites. You can't stay there though. It's where all of the wild horses are. You can take a ferry over and see it. It's absolutely just like magical. So if you're thinking about making a move to a coast, maybe pause on Florida and look at Georgia's coast. I personally don't sell real estate there, but I have a great friend who sells real estate there. She kind of is in that whole little Brunswick, St. Simons, Savannah, Jekyll Island area. So if you're thinking about making a move there, let me know and I can connect you with her because she's fantastic and she's sold real estate there for a long time. But anyways, I wanted to just make sure that you guys know Georgia's coastline is amazing. There is a lot of new construction going on around the Savannah area because of the port, and most of the building is going to be in this area and then over in Augusta. So Augusta is another very popular area right there on that South Carolina border. But right here, we have a ton. So most of the suburbs that you see me focusing on are in this top half, but you're not seeing a lot of building in this southern part of Georgia. But this right here, this Dawsonville, this is where one of the homes was that I was talking to you guys about a couple of weeks ago. Some really great options, some affordable options, which is fantastic. That's one of the biggest things. This home here, we're looking at $440,000. That is a great buy. My only issue with that one would be that it's a D.R. Horton home. And you guys know my opinion of D.R. Horton, but I'll keep it to myself. So moving on, I wanted to share some of these developments with you guys. So Dawsonville is one of the areas that is just, we're seeing so much growth. Ashton Woods has 2 new communities that are going to be popping up in right over by like the Chestatee area, which is going to be off of Highway 400 area. Dawsonville is so funny because I would say probably 10, 12 years ago, there wasn't a ton in Dawsonville. They had built the outlet mall. It was a great outlet mall, by the way. But that's really all that was there. And then all of a sudden, it just really started with the building. They've got every grocery store you can think of, Kroger, Publix, Ingles. They have a Restoration Hardware outlet. They have the outlet mall. They've got everything that you can think of. The only thing they don't have, and I still can't figure this out, is a Target. I feel like everywhere should have a Target. If I was to be locked in one store forever, it would be Target. So I'm not sure why they don't have one. However, they've had a ton of new construction going on in the Dawsonville area because it is a really easy way for you to get into the city. So if you're having to commute, but you really don't want to live in the city, straight up 400 is Dawsonville. So it's a super, super easy drive. And this new community that they're going to be building here is single family homes. It's called Creekside, and then there's another one called East Harbor 2. East Harbor 2, they're going to be starting around $630,000. They've got floor plans that are going to be in the 3,000 square foot. The community has an 18-hole golf course. Plus, it has pools, it has tennis courts, it has the little mushroom fountains, the slides. You guys, like, this is going to be an amazing, amazing community. And truth be told, Dawsonville has not seen anything like this other than Chastity. And quite frankly, Chastity doesn't have, the amenities that this has. It does have the golf, and it also has the boat slips, but you don't have anything that is quite on this level. And with the affordability, homes in Chestatee are much higher priced. So that's going to be a major win for the Dawson area. Lone One, good to see you. Would you say more people are moving in than leaving? Yes, I definitely would. And there's multiple factors to that, really. Georgia is one of those places where, because of tax benefits for companies. I think we've talked about this before on the live, but because of tax benefits for companies, we've seen a ton of companies move here. We've had Facebook, Google, Microsoft, so a lot of the tech companies. The other factor to that is there are a lot of great universities here. And so a lot of people come here to go to college, and then Georgia Tech is actually one of the most well-known for people that are going to be getting into the tech industry. And how convenient is it that Georgia Tech is right there in downtown Atlanta, and then you are literally surrounded by some of these major tech giants. And some of them actually said they moved here for the purpose of being closer to Georgia Tech, because they're able to just pick their favorites right out of the college. And so with so much moving here, and then we have the movie industry, we've got the hip hop industry, we just have a lot going here. And so people are flocking. It's just one of those things where we're seeing more and more people moving in. And in some areas, we have the room for growth, and in other areas, we just really don't. So that's where you're seeing some of these areas like Dawsonville that 10, 12 years ago, it was more, I don't want to say rural, because it definitely wasn't rural, but just considered more country. They're being built up. They've got these amazing new communities coming up. So I'm very excited about that. Pop on over. Yes. Pop on over. Yes. Once you go far enough south of Atlanta, it's way different. Oh, for sure. I really joke that Georgia is split into like two different, it should be two different states. I feel like South Georgia should be part of Florida, because it definitely mirrors the style of Florida more. It's just flat plains. You're driving forever. There's absolutely nothing there. It's just fields and fields and fields of peaches and pecans and all of the goodness that I thoroughly enjoy, but I'm not going to go be a part of, because I don't like the bugs and the humidity in those areas. And there's just not a lot of growth. It's some of those areas you literally have to drive like 45 minutes to an hour to get to a grocery store or to get to like shopping and things like that. And I'm too much of a food snob. I like to go out to eat and try new places. So for me to have to drive 45 minutes every time I need to try something like that would just not work for me. I'm a Knowles fan, but for Miami Dolphins, I'd be out of place. Well, I mean, you're not too far. You could just fly down to Miami if you need to hit that up. But maybe you could, turn to be a No, you can't be a Falcons fan. We're not that good, but don't say it out loud. So I'm super excited about this neighborhood. I think this is going to be a fantastic option for people to check out. Dawsonville also has some other um, communities that are in the area that have been developed. I showed you guys those a couple of weeks ago. So Dawsonville is a great option if you're thinking about moving in to Georgia and you're not sure where to look. I definitely would tell you to consider Dawsonville. You're going to find more affordable options. You've still got all of your grocery stores, Starbucks, all of the shopping except for Target. But you're just 15 minutes from coming. So they've got a super Target there that could double duty. Plus, they have a Costco. So one of the other neighborhoods that I've seen here is there are some new communities that are popping off in the area. And these are going to be around 500,000. Why is it not loading? Hello. Here we go. So these are in Flowery Branch. And so you've got everything from 500,000 to over 600,000. These are going to be anywhere from 3,000 square feet to right at 4,000 square feet if you get one of the homes on a basement. They're all going to be 3 and 4 bedroom options. These are some great options because Flowery Branch is another area that is really starting to build up. A lot of these have already been pre-sold, but you can see right here, closing costs paid up to $10,000. So that's one of the things that we're always, I won't say always, but we're definitely seeing more and more with builders in these new construction communities. However, the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that a lot of times that is tied to their lender. So that's tied to going and working with their specific lender. So is that a negative? Not always. I always say to go and check out their lender, talk with them, see what rates they're going to give you, see what their pricing structure is, and then go to a traditional lender. I have ones that I have vetted and trust. So I tell you, talk with both. Tell them to give you a breakdown of exactly what they're charging you, what their rates are. And that way you can really compare. Because what you don't want to happen is they're telling you that they're giving you $10,000 towards closing cost or prepaids, anything like that. But then in reality, when you look at the breakdown, holy cow, they're charging $10,000 somewhere else or $8,000 somewhere else that the other lender isn't doing. And then so really it's a wash. You're not really making any money off of that 10,000. It's not really a gift. They're charging it to you somewhere else. So good evening, everyone. I'm late because of work. I hope everyone is doing well. Well, we're glad that you're here, Anthony, and I hope that you didn't have to work too hard. So let's take a peek because Anthony, you and I have actually talked about some new construction options. We went and looked at some over in Monroe, which that's another area that we're really starting to see some growth. The Monroe area has always been a little bit more of a rural area. It still has not grown to the amount that Dawsonville has grown, but I think little by little it will get there. They've been working on the downtown area over in Monroe, and we're seeing a lot of growth. One of my favorite things over there is the growers outlet. So if you have to do any big landscaping projects, the growers outlet over in the Monroe, Loganville, wherever you want to call it, area, it's right there on the line, has anything and everything that you can think of. They've got, peach trees, apple trees. They've got hostas, azaleas, literally anything you can think of. They have it there, but at a much better price. So check it out. Some of the other new construction I wanted to make sure that I go over with you guys is this right here. So this is in Brookhaven, okay? And Brookhaven is a little bit closer into the city, but it's right outside. It's kind of right on the if you're not familiar with Georgia or our terminology, it's what we call ITP and OTP. So 285, Highway 285 or Interstate 285 runs a circle around the city of Atlanta. And that was made so that trucks do not go through, tractor trailers do not go through the city. It helps with traffic and it helps with not screwing up the roads in Atlanta. And so one of the things that we say is if you're inside the perimeter of 285, then you're ITP. And if you're OTP, then you're outside of that perimeter of 285. And so Brookhaven is kind of right there on that line. It's still ITP inside the perimeter. It has more of that urban vibe, but you're not right there in the middle of the city. You're going to have a lot more walkability factor than you would if you were out in the suburbs, like Swanee, Beaufort, Duluth. However, Brookhaven is still close enough to the city that you could probably be there in about 15, 20 minutes tops. So it's extremely convenient. The one thing about Brookhaven, though, is it's a little pricier. The closer into the city that you go, a little bit more pricey you're going to become. But we're seeing a lot of new construction right here in Brookhaven. We're seeing a ton of people that are loving that area. And so this neighborhood is going to be popping up. It's coming soon. And if you can take a look, they're going to have single family. They're going to have townhomes as well. So you can really decide what option. And if you can see these pictures that they have here, it is absolutely stunning. The photos for this are just absolutely beautiful. However, you have to understand that these homes starting price are quite a bit higher. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. Let's see here for questions. What have we got going on today, guys? Oh, are we frozen? I think we are. Can you guys hear me? We're back. I just love technology. I'm totally kidding. I hate technology. This is why. So those townhomes and single family homes that I was talking about in Brookhaven, those are going to be starting about 800,000. So you have to see that there is a massive difference between pricing when you're getting closer to the city than if you're willing to go a little bit further out of the city. A lot of people have asked about, well, what benefit is it to be one or the other? Honestly, it's up to you. Brookhaven is extremely convenient. You've got all of your shopping and restaurants. You're 15 to 20 minutes from the city. It really does give you that urban vibe that you're looking for without being right in the middle of the hustle and bustle of the city. You've got more walkability. You've got more like buses, transit. MARTA is there. So if transportation is something that's important to you, that would definitely be somewhere I would consider. If you're looking for something that is going to give you a little bit more space, maybe you want a yard for the dog, maybe cost and price is something that's really important to you, then I would suggest looking a little bit further out, OTP as we call it, out into the suburbs, where you're going to be looking in, Cumming, Woodstock, Dawsonville, Monroe, Swanee. Alpharetta is another one that it's similar to Brookhaven in terms of it's pricey. So looking at some of those other suburbs that are close by, so where you can be there in just 10 to 15 minutes, but you're not paying for the name of where you live, is something that I think is really, really important. So intermission. That is the best ever. And thank you. Yes, that's exactly what happened. 800, that sounds like, yeah. Don't get me wrong, though. They're worth it. It's beautiful. They're absolutely stunning. I'm sure you guys saw from the pictures that they're absolutely stunning. But it has to just be something that's worth it to you in terms of location, because you really are paying for that location compared to just going a little bit further out. Some people are just dead set. They want to be inside that perimeter. They don't want to deal with going outside of it. It's a whole like rivalry here in Georgia. So if you get here, you'll be a part of it. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I also touched on today, other than just the pricing and new construction that we talked about, was I'm sure this is a much bigger thing to me because I'm in the real estate world all day, every day. But this week, the National Association of Realtors did hand down some news to everybody. And I'm sure you've probably seen it on the news about the way that real estate is going to be changing a little bit. And it's in terms of the buyer's agent compensation. And there are a ton of things going on in the news. And so if you have any questions specific, make sure you drop them in the chat. I want to make sure that I answer them. But I also just want to share the actual facts of what's going on and how this would really affect you as a home seller or a home buyer, because it's going to affect both sides. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people in this area have not been educated on how the law really works when it comes to compensation. And so historically, what has taken place is I go to someone that wants to sell their home. They're giving me a commission, and then I am then splitting that commission with a buyer's agent. If there wasn't a buyer's agent, then I've already written into that agreement with the seller what would happen. And usually that commission is just decreasing because there's not an agent on the other side. And so realistically, what happens at that point is that buyer is just not being represented by anyone. They've come to us and they're giving us a verbal offer. I'm usually typing that up. However, my fiduciary responsibility is still to the seller. That means I cannot share anything with the buyer. I cannot give them comps to tell them what I would offer as a price. I cannot give them any information about what the seller may or may not take in terms of an offer. I can literally do nothing but take their name and information and put it into the offer. So moving forward, with the National Association of Realtors lawsuit finally coming to a close, what does that look like moving forward? This is what I want to make sure that you guys are familiar with and have all of the facts about. So basically what is going to change is I would no longer be sharing a commission with a buyer's agent. We would be negotiating. If the seller wants to pay a buyer's agent a commission, that would be paid directly from the seller to the buyer's agent instead of going through the loop of going through the listing agent. So that's where the difference is coming in. And a lot of people, I feel like, have been very confused on the fact of if a seller is required to pay a commission. And the answer has always been no, you do not. It is up to the seller. If you're paying a commission to anyone, you can always say you're not paying it. Am I personally going to work with you at that point? No. Do you work for free? No. It's kind of like if you go into an attorney's office or a CPA or even to a hair salon, they have their price. And so if you go in and you see their pricing and you don't like their pricing, you're more than welcome to leave. You're not having to pay them. And that's the same thing in real estate. It's also negotiable. If somebody were to come in and say, well, I heard that agents make about this specific percent, typically in this area, it's this specific percent. Will you take this? That's always a conversation that is on the table. And so moving forward, that is still a conversation that will be on the table. It was never off of the table. However, unfortunately, I have to take ownership on this one and say it is a lot of the realtors' issue as to why we were in this to begin with. I feel like a lot of realtors don't want to have the conversations with clients, whether they're a seller or a buyer, that are uncomfortable to them. Maybe it's about commissions, or maybe it's about things that they just feel that the buyer or seller may not agree with, and it may rub them the wrong way. Unfortunately, that's our job. And our job is to educate you as the public. And if we're not doing that, then we're not doing what we said we would do in representing you. And so moving forward, some of the things that I wanted to make sure that you're aware of is that sellers have the option to negotiate this, just like you have the option to do a for sale by owner. You have the option to go with a discount brokerage where basically, some of these brokerages, you pay $1,000 for them to put your listing into the MLS and then they're hands off. You're going to be the one that is fielding the calls. You're going to be one that is being there for showings, because obviously you don't have a lockbox or access to the MLS or anything like that. So you'll have to be there for showings. You'll have to do your own photography, your own videography, do all of the marketing, all of those things. Hopefully you have a relationship with a closing attorney, a lender, all of those things that you would be needing. You have options. You always have. But now we're just trying to make it that it is crystal clear. If you want as the buyer to work with an agent, but perhaps the seller is saying, well, I'm not going to pay a buyer's compensation. That's where you as the buyer hopefully had a conversation with the realtor that you're working with ahead of time to see, what does that look like? You might start seeing different things. You might start seeing things as far as that if there's a home that is not going to pay a buyer's compensation, then you could either choose to go directly to that listing agent, or you could choose to pay your buyer's agent directly. What are the benefits? This is something that I've had conversations over and over this week about. What are the benefits of having a buyer's agent? And someone actually said, I can tell where the owner's suite or the kitchen is. I don't need someone to point it out. And I don't get upset at that. Unfortunately, my industry as a whole has created this thought that that's what buyer's agents do. And so if we've created that, we have to own that. But your buyer's agent, whatever state you're in, should be doing far more for you than just opening up doors. They should be doing the research on any home that you're looking to purchase. They should be finding out what the average utilities are. They should be finding out what the taxes are. They should be vetting and looking into any lenders that you're going to be talking with. They should be helping you get all of your information together that you're going to need to be doing the loan process, because it is a taxing process. They should be giving you cookies and chocolates as you go through that process. They should be helping you with the actual documentation as far as writing the contract. They should be educating you on what every stipulation and every word in that contract means. They should be educating you on getting an inspection. They should be lining up that inspection if you want them to. Literally anything that they can take off of your plate to make this transition and transaction as smooth as possible is what our job as a buyer's agent is to do. If your buyer's agent is not doing that, something that you also need to know is you can fire a buyer's agent. You can fire a listing agent at any point in the transaction. Yes, you signed a contract with them. However, you can also terminate that contract if they're not holding up their end of the deal, if they're not doing what they said they would do, which is representing you to the fullest and having your fiduciary responsibility to you to represent you and to ensure that you're not overspending, right? Our job is to look at the comps, interpret them, and help you interpret them. Our job is, while you're looking at going through this home with butterfly and rainbow eyes, we're over there looking at anything that we can possibly find that could be wrong with this home. And then we're having the inspector come in to do an extra good job of what we think that we found wrong with the home. Because again, our fiduciary responsibility is to you. So I want to make sure that there is total clarity with this, because this is not something that should be swept under the rug. This is something that definitely will affect buyers and sellers. But quite frankly, while a lot of people are looking at it as a negative, I think that it's going to just weed out a lot of the agents that truthfully don't need to be realtors. We have a very low threshold when it comes to getting your real estate license. And you are single-handedly holding probably the most expensive investment that people are going to be making. And if you don't take that seriously, then you probably don't need to be in this business anyways. So if there's any questions, please make sure that you drop them in the chat. This is something that I make sure that I want to go over and have complete transparency with. So I'm just happy I bought and coming in 2018, it's pretty much becoming Alfredo 2.0. That is the truth. What area of Cumming do you live? I'm loving the new Cumming City Center, although I wish they would finish it just a little quicker. Been going on for a while. But I'm in love with the new coffee shop that's over there. So it definitely, especially if you're on the south side of Cumming, has become quite pricey. Are you a member of the National Association of Realtors? Just curious. Yes, I am. So that's a great question. If you belong to an MLS, then you have to belong to the National Association of Realtors. And so for me to be able to access information for myself as far as looking at homes and for the public, I have to belong to the National Association of Realtors. And most realtors throughout the US belong to them as well. Fantastic question. Better explanation than what I've read in the news. A lot of the articles I saw weren't very clear on what happens next, but had catchy headlines. Typical news media, right? They're always going to give you that fear factor because it sells. So, they truthfully still don't have 100% clarity on how it's going to be written out, because currently what happens if I list Anthony's home for sale, I would show on the listing itself, I would show the compensation that he's willing to offer to a buyer's agent. That's going to go away. And so that will no longer be shown on the listing. And so where it's kind of the gray area, they haven't figured out exactly what's going to happen yet, is where would that compensation be shown or be discussed? Because again, it's not going through me any longer. It's going to be directly between the seller paying it to the buyer. And so a lot of people have said, well, then why would I even bother to pay a buyer's agent if I don't have to? The truth is, you never did have to. You could have said, we're not going to pay. We're going to pay a lower commission. And so we're going to cut the buyer's agent out. Why would you pay a buyer's compensation? There's multiple reasons. Quite frankly, I enjoy having a buyer's agent on the other side because it takes out any of the questions from a buyer. It takes out the risk of possibly having a lawsuit down the way, because how I personally, could see this going is if a buyer feels that they can't have representation, and then they're coming directly to the seller or to the listing agent, they have no one representing them. They have no one educating them. They have no one that's looking out for their best interest and having their back. So if 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, they feel that some things happen with the home and they feel like, these weren't disclosed and I didn't have an agent that was representing me for me to go and talk to, or for me to call right now 5 years later and say, hey, what's going on with this? We missed this. Now they're coming back to the seller. And so when you have a buyer's agent and a listing agent to kind of be that buffer in between that's taking on a lot of the law responsibility, we're the ones that are discussing with the inspectors, we're the ones that are setting it up with the attorneys, we're the ones that are pulling the HOA closing letters, we're doing all of that stuff for you and making sure that things are written out correctly. Can you Google, a way to write a contract? Absolutely. Do I trust everything that Google says? If I was having, brain surgery tomorrow, would I be Googling how to do it? Absolutely not. And am I comparing what I'm doing to a brain surgeon? No. But are you spending the most money that you probably are ever going to spend? Yes. And do you want to just willy-nilly throw that out there? I personally would not. But again, you have options. It's completely up to you. It's like choosing to do your own taxes or not. Personally, I can't stand doing taxes. They can be so complicated. Exactly. And personally, I'm going to screw them up. And I know I'm going to screw them up. And I'm not trying to mess with the IRS so that they're coming back to me and saying, well, you owe this much more dollars because you didn't file them correctly or you didn't file them on time. I'm going to find a qualified CPA that knows what they're doing, and I'm going to pay them because that's their job. They went to school and they're math whizzes and they know the tax law that I don't know. Could I Google the tax law? 100%. Is it truthful? I have no idea. I didn't go to school to do taxes. I went to school to do real estate, and that's what I know, and that's what you hire people for. But I do want to make it clear, like I said before, you are not bound to any agent if they're not doing what they said they would do for you. If you feel that they are not working for you, you can always fire that agent. Even if you signed a contract with them, all you have to do is make sure that you have it in writing. So send them an email and say, unfortunately, I just don't feel that this relationship was working out. Thanks for your time so much. Have a great day. So I hope all of this has made it a little bit more clear. I will definitely be updating you guys as this unfolds, but as you're seeing on the news, I just wanted to make sure that we're having total transparency because this is something that you shouldn't just skip over. It does affect you. It affects real estate in general, but I do believe that it will be business as normal. You're not going to be seeing a lot of the fear factor that the news is selling. And again, like always, if you have any questions that you think of later, shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy to make sure that I'm answering everything for you guys. So I hope this was helpful. I will definitely see you guys on the next live next Thursday. Have a great evening.